Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This time we'd like to call the meeting to order for the February monthly board meeting, February 2016. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Bobby, roll call, please.
Tim Fuller.
Here.
Kara Gissel. Here. Andy Mary.
Yes.
Scott Jensma.
Yes.
Jeannie Long. Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
James Schultz.
Yes.
And Mike Foley.
Yes, President. Yes, I did get communication earlier today from Mrs. Long, and she was not feeling very well and stuff, and said that it was a possibility she may not make it tonight, so we will excuse her absence on that. And before we get into anything really too funky tonight, Mr. Kelly, we understand this is your officially your last meeting with this particular group. You're moving on to lacrosse, am I correct? We thank you for all your broadcasts and following the events of the district and stuff, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
So let's give Drew a hand, please. Okay, then after all that wonderful little diatribe, we'll move down to the consent agenda, and we'd be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the agenda for tonight's meeting as presented, the meeting minutes of January 25th and the February 1st board meetings as presented. The financial report for January 2016 and payment of bills through checks number 5485 to 5665 and 151600850 to 151601007, and a wire transfer in the amount of $1,175.19, totaling $1,137,799.07.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Fuller, second from Mr. Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Tim Fuller.
Yes.
Kara Gissel.
Yes.
Andy Mary.
Yes.
Scott Jensma.
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
James Schultz.
Yes.
Mike Foley.
Yes. Very good, motion carries. Move on to item 5, citizens and delegations.
No one signed up.
No one signed up? Very good. Thank you, Tim. Then we'll move on to new business. Student rep report. Ryan?
So next week, juniors are going to be starting ACT testing. Next week, some of the sports are entering their playoffs here, next few weeks here. Bowling just had theirs. None of the high school teams made it, which is unfortunate, but I believe that some of the middle school teams might have a shot at making it. The middle school girls team might make it. Pretty good chance of that. Bye Bye Birdie is going to be opening in a few weeks, and Fire participated in solo and ensemble last weekend, and there's lots of people going out of state.
Good. Wonderful. Sounds like everything's kind of getting ready for spring. Moving along too. We don't have a score in the hockey game yet, boys? Okay.
I think the high school bowlers, at least one bowler made it.
Chris Airley made it for singles.
No Ryan McCarthy?
Sorry.
Hey Ryan, at one of our meetings we talked about the referendum process, and we didn't know if there was an opportunity or if there was an interest where you or other student leaders might want to set up a forum specifically for students in after-school setting to hear, ask questions or to hear about the process. I just wanted to put that put that in your mind and see if there's any interest for that. It would be something that we would ask student leadership to set up. But I know that that board members would be happy to attend, based on timing and things. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I just want to know that I support that, and that I would definitely do what I could to attend that.
Excellent. Yeah, if you want to mention, see if there's any interest, just let us know and we'll participate, work with you on it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Ryan. Let's go on to the policy committee report. Tim?
Okay, a meeting for the policy committee was held on February 9th. It was called to order at 7 o'clock by myself, chair. Committee members present, myself, Jeannie Long, Andy Mary, Tara Gilslow. Other board members present, Mike Goldig and Jim Schultz. Administrators present, Dr. Childs, interim district administrator, Tim Prunty, director of financial services, Glenda Davis, Nancy Resch, and Tola Winke, elementary principals. And there were no public comments. Dr. Childs explained that in regards to the policy regarding transgender students and or employees, a policy has not been drafted at this time, and we have been advised to wait to see how the legislature handles this topic. In our district, we have met personally with those individuals that are affected, and we have made adequate accommodations for the student and the family. We will move forward with policy developments based on legal counsel. The committee further discussed reimbursement to board members for internet connection. The committee agreed that it would like to see a policy drafted. Dr. Childs said he will continue to work with legal guidance. And that was basically, there was no policies for first or second readings tonight. So I guess, is there any questions on anything there? The next policy committee will be on Tuesday, March 8th at 7 p.m. and the meeting was adjourned by unanimous consent at 7:15.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you, Tim. Let's go on to the Community Relations Committee, and we have a new chairperson for that, Ms. Mead.
The Community Relations Committee met on February 10th at Pleasant View High School. Pleasant View School. Thank you. Board members present were Patrick McKenna, myself, Scott, Andy, and also Mike. And administrators that were there were Dr. Childs and Amy Downs. And who was it?
Jim was also
Is on the top.
Oh, I see.
Well, yeah,
Oh, I see, I
Jim
see.
was there, and
I see, sorry.
was somebody else there from the administration? Okay. And there were some community members. So for public comment, Tom had spoke about how he thought it was really important to get the money out to the public and let them know the specific numbers of the referendum. Another community member who was also a parent said that she was concerned about the level of education that students would have at the new school, and questioned whether they'd get the same type of personal attention as they currently receive in their small rural schools and small city schools. And also she had a concern about the staff reduction. So we had a discussion about that. Also, there was some concerns about marketing plan, that it needs to be very simple so everybody can understand it. And somebody had suggested that we reach out to like the assisted living facilities in the area. That would be a good resource to educate about the upcoming referendum. Hattie Schultz also had a local resident ask her, or she asked, I don't remember what she said, why Crestwood and Mattoon were chosen as the two remaining schools versus some other ones. Dr. McKenna explained that those schools were chosen based on where the population lies within our district, and there's possibility of changing boundaries, and always there's a possibility of some families who will choose to open enroll out from our district due to which schools we closed. talked about some of the possible marketing plans, including the one Patrick mentioned earlier about having the students do their own referendum discussions and I think like election, right? That's what we said, like a student election at the high school. Dr. Childs also again reminded us that all schools will provide Title I and special education services, which will also be a benefit to our district. Dr. McKenna had questions about the procedure that we came to appoint our chair, and so that led to opening the nomination up. Patrick nominated me, I nominated Scott, Scott nominated Patrick. So Mike settled it and appointed me as the new chairperson for the committee. I gladly take this job for 2 months. So, and then we got to hear from Amy, who gave us our PBIS report. And she told us about some of the Winterfest activities and that our high school students went to that elementary school, which I saw some pictures of that. That was very nice. They were mentoring with the students and doing outdoor events. And we are still working on our streamlining our attendance and truancy, but that we have seen some improvements in some areas already. And we talked a little bit about the time slots for filming some video clips for social media and a timeline that we had received. And so our next meeting for the referendum marketing plan is to take place on Wednesday, March 2nd at 6 p.m. here in this room. And as sort of a board retreat, and that we also decided that for our next meeting that we would host the public info meeting on the referendum, so that we will have our brief meeting prior to that meeting at 6:30 p.m. And then our meeting was adjourned.
Exciting.
Any questions? Yes, Rita? Hearing none, thank you. Okay, we will jump down then to item 5, other reports, budget update. Mr. Pronti.
I want to first apologize for not having something ready to go for board docs. I don't know what happened, I just failed to get it in there. So before we discuss next year's budget, I'd just like to highlight on a couple of points in this current school year budget. So I've met recently with most of the principals and several department heads. We've discussed how they're going to be spending the remainder of their supply and material budgets. Requisitions, final requisitions will be due on Friday, April 8th. So things are coming along nicely in that area. 2 weeks ago, we were notified that of our common school fund allocation. Our district receives almost $114,000 in library aid. Christy Bovary and her staff start spending this money right away, even though we don't get the payment until April. And Christy is now in the final stages of putting together her purchases for library materials. It's library books, materials, and technology that can be used in the IMCs. So this year, Christy is working with Mr. Zamzow to hopefully do some upgrading of technology in the IMC here at the high school. At this point in the year, keep our fingers crossed, we haven't had any unplanned expenditures, so the process is going along as expected. As we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, I'd like to have a discussion with the board regarding contributions to our Fund 73 for the health reimbursement or health retirement account. This allows the district to pay for some future expenses now and receive state aid on it. And we really need to have a discussion on which direction we want to go with unexpended funds, if there are any, and whether or not we want to make that allocation. So in the upcoming months, we'll have further discussions about that. So in terms of next year's planning, although I don't have anything formally prepared, I have actually been working on it. 2 weeks ago, DPI released pre-populated revenue limit worksheets. So this is the Excel spreadsheet that calculates what our expenditures, the maximum level that we'll receive from the state and through the local tax levy. So I'll begin working with Scott Rowell over the next week or two and to see if our estimate is right on projection for what we think we're going to need to cut for next year's budget. Because that whole revenue limit calculation is driven by enrollment, I mentioned to the board that it's critical that we have accurate numbers moving forward on what our enrollment projections are going to be. So I went ahead and contacted the UW-Madison's Applied Population Lab, and they submitted a proposal back to me to do a 5-year projection on enrollment. They have a cost of $3,300 to do that work for us. I just haven't gotten back to them. I think I'd like to see us do that this spring in preparation for next fiscal, so we have the most accurate information possible. 4K registration is going to be beginning this week, so hopefully we'll get a pretty good real-life handle on what our 4K enrollment is going to be for next year. Any questions?
Yeah, have we done that enrollment projection with
I think
them before? Or has Mary Jo has just done it?
we've done a combination of both, and they have essentially you're getting a snapshot of what the next 5 years looks like. And the projections are fairly accurate in year 1 and year 2. This year I believe we were 3 years off of the last study that we did. And so we used kind of a combination of the population lab and then Mary Jo's kind of back of the envelope live birth information. Health insurance, I know I've touched on this last month, but I've got a little bit of a handle on it. So the district's HSA, our health savings account, and our health reimbursement account represents the first $10,000 of an individual's health insurance benefit. And the district's been funding that, the HRA portion of that benefit, at 60% since its inception about 5 years ago. That account has been gradually growing. And in March, I'll be prepared to make a recommendation that we use the reserves in that account to help fund next year's health insurance premium as a way to reduce our healthcare costs. And I'm going to guess that right now it looks like that'll be between $150,000 and $200,000. So it's a way to whittle that healthcare down significantly. I also mentioned last time that we're looking at our insurance provider. We're anticipating our rate of utilization to be somewhere between 60 and 65% of our total premiums. And so this is very similar, our usage very similar to what we've had over the last 3 years. So we're getting to a point where Antigo as a business is more attractive to an insurance provider. So we went out for bid. Bids are due back in we use ANSE as our insurance consultant. They're due in ANSE's office this Friday. And next week we'll begin looking at those insurance proposals to see if we get a better bargain than what we currently have. When we did the original financial model with Scott, we're projecting a 6% increase. We could be reasonable that we could see a significant reduction over that 6%. And that, just to give you an idea, that 6% represents $275,000 for the district. So between the reducing the HRA account, we could see a significant reduction in what we're really anticipating for needing for budget cuts. So I think that's a good thing. As we'll see later in the agenda tonight, we're just beginning to receive notices of retirements and resignation. And I think this year in particular, we'll have to take a real close look at any positions that as they become available. And we'll continue to do the position analysis and send those forward to you, to the board. The other area that I'd really like to take a good look at is Jake's operational budget. I'll be asking Jake to look at his budget and see where he can make reductions. In particular, our natural gas costs over the last 3 years have steadily declined. So that's an area where we've tended to be hesitant in the utility budget to cut back on, but I'd like Jake to take a look at it and get some reasonable estimates from the utility company where we're gonna be next year for pricing. And I think there's an opportunity for us to take a little bit of money out of that area. His electrical budget, conversely, has been running right up to the edge every year. So we may have to reallocate a little bit of that natural gas cost, but I hope we have some savings.
Tim, is it possible on the natural gas to buy like futures contracts where we get multi-year guaranteed price?
Don, what we've done in the past is we do buy futures, and we typically only go out a year. It's kind of like the whole idea of when we look at short-term borrowing versus longer-term rates.
Yeah.
The longer-term rates are still quite a bit higher than those short-term rates on the utility side. There can be some good benefit. The only problem is how much do you lock in? And if you have a mild winter, you're stuck with a contract where you may have pre-bought and not used it. So it's a little bit risky, but we've been doing it for a while.
What happens when you pre-buy and don't use it?
You've bought the contract and then they sell it. They'll sell it for you, but then you're gonna bear the difference if you go with it. So over the next 2 months, I'm going to be asking the principals and administrators to find ways to come up with the difference. You know, we'll have a balanced budget come June, and we'll figure out a way to get there. All right?
Anybody have any questions for Tim? Good. Tim, thank you. Okay, we'll go down to item 6, board action. First on the agenda there is the E-rate approval. If you're looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the following E-rate bids. Serenity for rural digital transmission lines, a 500 megabyte internet line, and city fiber lines. Yearly subsidized cost totaling $82,020. Verizon Wireless for wireless telephone service at a monthly cost of 6 cents a minute plus $39.99 for data usage. Spectrum Charter for PRI telephone service at an annual cost of $7,249. Frontier Communications for long distance service at an annual cost of $7,524 for all lines. And Wisnet for the 100 megabyte internet line at an annual cost of $13,366.68.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Murray, second from Ms. Lee. Discussion. I think it's pretty much cut and dried that we only had one bidder for each category.
I think the interesting thing is I asked Tanya to post on the right-hand side, and you can see the rates that we paid last year. So, at least the costs are relatively very, very similar.
Was there just any particular reason why we didn't get a whole lot of bids on it, Tim?
Well, you know, when you think of what we're doing with Serenity for the borough, for example, you know, they've got the infrastructure in, and there's just nobody that is willing for that price to make the commitment to put it in.
Right.
The others we've got down on Serenity, we also have the fiber network, and when we put it out for an RFP, they've got, somebody else would have to go ahead and put the fiber network in. So,
Or buy it from them.
yes, they could, right.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Tara Gissel.
Yes.
Andy Berry.
Yes.
Scott Jensen.
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
James Schultz.
Yes.
Tim Fuller. Mike Coldick.
Yes. Good, motion carries, thank you, everyone. Item B, purchase of a district maintenance vehicle. Motion, please.
I move the board approve the bid of Langley Ford for the purchase of a new maintenance truck at a cost of $23,755, including registration and all fees.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Murray, second from Ms. Delzo. Discussion.
Only question I would have is, do we ever look at recent trade-ins like 2015s, low miles, things like that, pickup trucks with our vehicles, or is that just too, we're getting good enough price on new that we really don't need to do that?
Yeah, I haven't priced them all, but I would sure think that with the state pricing that we're getting, I don't see how the used market could come around with that. I have not priced them all, though.
I think, I just confirmed that, but I think that the prices that we're seeing here from Langley Ford is real close to anything we pick up.
And Ford offers, their corporation offers a fleet type deal for any, that also is basically just a hurdle that we have to go through to sign up with them, since we're a nonprofit, that they handle all the behind the scenes work on the state pricing. That's why the Ford is the same price relatively locally as it would be through the state purchasing contract, where Chevy and the Dodge dealerships did not offer that to us. So
Is the state pricing even available on used equipment and vehicles?
not on state pricing.
So
no.
cost would probably wind up being for a year-old vehicle, would probably wind up being pretty much parity in terms of.
I find it interesting, quite frankly, that the local dealer was the only one that included everything in their pricing quote, and everybody else has got fees and deliveries, et cetera, that are above and beyond their quotes. Yeah, makes sense.
It's frankly where they make all their money.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Andy Murray.
Yes.
Scott Jensen.
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
James Schultz.
Yes.
Tim Fuller.
Yes.
Tara Gizzo.
Yes.
And Mike Coldick.
Yes. Very good, motion carries. Item C, purchase of classroom furniture.
I move the board approve the bid.
Purchase of classroom furniture.
Do we usually get it in stereo?
Yeah. $10,273.76.
Second.
Oh,
Yeah.
glad to see you guys are on top of this tonight. The motion by Ms. Mead and the second from Mr. McKenna. Purchase of classroom furniture. Discussion.
This is one where originally I asked the principals to put together a list of immediate furniture needs. And, maybe Don could describe the need, but we're going from classroom desks to,
Tables and chairs.
yeah, tables and chairs. And so we probably had 2 or 3 different vendors involved in the selection process. And then I just thought we could consolidate the orders at Central and get a better price if we can buy in a little bit bigger volume. I'm recommending Verco over School Specialties, because School Specialties, they subcontract the manufacturer of the furniture, and then they just have a label put on it that says it's theirs. And in the past, we've had hit or miss results with some of their product. And we've been using Verco now for a number of years, and they've really stood behind it as a direct manufacturer.
Nice. Makes sense.
There's some percent for that.
Any other discussion?
Should probably point out just for public consumption that the price differential is very small. It's what, less than $1,000
Yeah.
between the 2 bids, so.
In Verco, this is, they're actually using, they have what is it, USG buying contract with the government. So this is the government pricing that they provided us. And they tell us it's good. I know you always hear that it's not true, but In this case, we're hoping it is.
I'm with the IRS, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Scott Jensen,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
Kara Gissel,
Yes.
Andy Berry,
Yes.
and Mike Foley.
Yes. Motion carries. Item D, request for a bid for re-roofing Spring Valley. Go.
I move the board authorize the administration to seek bids for repair, replacement of the Spring Valley School roof.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Gelzau, second from Ms. Mead. Discussion.
Do we need to put a roof on Spring Valley?
So the roof was last put on around 2001. It's been maintained as well as possible.
Absolutely.
This past fall, we started repairing a few leaks that we had, and it's getting into the domino effect where you start trying to piece under a tile or a shingle, and it's creating other issues as we go. Is it to the point where there's shingles flying off and that extent? No, but within this summer, getting into next fall, based on how it affects the snow melt and the ice melt from this year are going to show up, I would project we would have a number of more leaks than we already have, and that would raise concern for me, because even if the referendum does pass, we still have a projected 2 years that we're going to be in that building. So that's why I wanted to bring the question to you guys and kind of take your.
Isn't it one more year, Jake?
Year and a half, really.
Potentially, depending on how it falls in line based on the minor projection.
You know, and Andy, when I think about it, if we had a winter like we had, you know, when we get terrific ice damping, that's when it's the worst on the shingles. And my recollection is, I mean, they get to a point, it seems like that 2000 vintage shingle, there were just tons of problems, give or take 5 years off of that. And they're almost like they're brittle. And you see vertical cracking going on. Could you get by for a year? I think you could. I think the board has to have a discussion of, when we go to sell the building, is there value to have a building that, once we don't occupy it, we aren't going to be out there looking at it every day. We ran into the issue with River Grove where it sat empty, and you know, we'd go out once every couple of weeks and check it, and then you detect a problem. Does adding $1,000 add $1,000 or $100,000 or $80,000, whatever that costs, add to the sale price? You know, that's a tough one.
I think we'd add to the sale price more if we take the $100,000, put it in an envelope and tape it to the front door. And if the next buyer wants to put a roof on, they can. If they want to use that to demo it, they could do that. That thing's a real liability because, you know, to demo it's going to cost somebody a lot of money. Farmland, yeah, you get 10 acres of pretty disturbed land. So, you know, I question what the value of that building is. And should we even save our $100,000 if we choose to demo it as a district?
Right. Well, in the same vein, folks, we have to understand that the motion on the floor is just to go out and get bids. It is not to accept the project. It is simply to go out and get bids, find out what the cost is going to be. So.
Yep. And if we're not serious about putting the roof on, should we make anybody go through the effort of giving us a bid?
Good point.
Contractor to.
But then that gets into the discussion of, what if the referendum doesn't pass? Is Spring Valley not going to stay open? And if it's not, should we have fixed it this summer? Or should we have at least gotten bids so we know where we're at once April comes along?
Well,
I mean, I don't have a problem with just seeking out bids. I agree, I don't know that it's really worth it to put it on, but we don't know what we're doing yet.
Jake, you want these bids, so at the March meeting, we could accept one?
That would be the natural cycle, but obviously if we want to wait till April 5th, I think that there's a lot of reason to do so.
I would rather wait till April.
Yeah.
So I
wanna know.
could wait to present them at the April board meeting for approval.
We'll still need to close schools too.
Right, we
Yeah,
just
we
don't
still
know
don't
what
have a-
or when.
There's no plan on April 5th unless we're coming up with a plan
Right,
in
It'd
that
still be-
April meeting.
right.
Still would be
Still
great
don't
to
know
come
what
up
we're
with a
doing.
plan.
So the one thing that I would be concerned about is waiting till after April 5th to go out for bids. We're gonna be pushing the schedule limitations on the contractors.
Yep,
Is the only reason I bring it up now.
and then the prices go up.
Prices would go up, and if you could even fit it in the window, especially before our fiscal year ends.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
The one thing I look at, Jake, is we're going out and asking for $25 million, and here we're gonna go spend $100,000 on a building we're saying we're gonna close. And just from a public perspective thing, you know, I've already had people come up to me and say, what do you think? Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? I agree.
I can't say I disagree with that, Andy. I want to.
Yeah, I'm addressing you, I'm addressing these guys over here.
Well, part of that, however, depends on what your ultimate intentions are to do with the building. If, you know, all the stars align and the referendum passes and you go forward, you'll find yourselves, if you decide that what you want to do is try to market the building, sitting on a white elephant that nobody's going to buy because it's going to cost them more than they are willing to put into it to make the building habitable.
Might be.
And you need to do some preventive kind of work. As it is, if the building sits empty and unoccupied and you don't either raise it or sell it, you're sitting on a white elephant that you've got to keep utilities running in to some degree and absorbing costs. So I think it's prudent to get the bids, and then the first decision is, you know, will we sell it or will we let it sit or will we tear it down? And then decide whether you want to go forward with getting the re-roofing done.
Do we know who owns the property around it?
I don't know. I don't have a clue.
If you could find that out and ask the people around it if they're interested in that piece of land for farmland, if there's potato field next to it. Like I say, you've got a septic and well there that if they're gonna abandon the well and things like that to plow everything under, I mean, it may not be, there may not be anybody interested in it as farmland per se, so then it would leave us to keep the facility in basically a repairable condition. So I guess I don't see any problem with approving you to go out and get bids, but I think one of the questions we should ask is the landowner right around it, if he's interested in it or anything like that. And if he's not, like I said, if he's not interested as farmland, to take out the septic, take out the well, and all the other things have to be done for 10 acres, then I think we should be looking at maintaining the building as reasonable as we can, I guess, until we can sell it or whatever we do with it.
Jim, I'll just answer that question partially. I did talk to one of the adjoining landowners, and
How many are there?
there's at least 2.
Okay.
And the reason I talked to him is because there is a well there, and it's you know, one of the deeper wells in the county. It has a good water supply. It has a 6-inch casing. I also talked to Roberts Irrigation about how much water you could get out of a 6-inch well. This is something that would matter to farmers, but maybe not us. And they said possibly up to 300 gallons a minute. When I'm talking to a farmer, they're saying, well, pivot is 700 gallons a minute. And if we're going to be at 2 or 250 or 300, the pivot's got to run all the time, which, yeah. They don't like to do
always
that.
talk about abandoning the well, because I didn't think that would be suitable for, you know, that kind of stuff for farming, to be in the middle of something.
But otherwise, you know, they expressed the concern that, well, we'd have to tear out all those trees, and so they view that as quite an expense.
So then as to basically the adjoining farmland, then it's kind of not a real attractive piece of property, so could be a reason to, you know, after the referendum, see what we want to do with it then.
I'll call the question.
Yep.
Okay, I'll remind everyone that the motion was that the board authorized administration to seek bids for repair/replacement of the Spring Valley School roof. Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Patrick McKenna,
No.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
Tara Gizla,
No.
Andy Mary,
No.
Scott Jensen,
Yes.
Mike Boldig,
Yes. Motion carries 5-3. Go and get some bids, Jake. Alrighty, on to item E, the monitoring reports. Looking for a motion, please.
I move the board accept the second quarterly monitoring reports for 2015-16 as in compliance with board goals and expectations.
Second.
Okay, a motion from from Ms. Gelza, second from Mr. Mary. Any discussion?
Just point out, from a personal perspective, that I am pleased with the progress that the schools are making. And I think our principals are doing an outstanding job of leading their staffs in their collaborations and in pulling things together with a viable guaranteed literacy curriculum. And I think you're going to see continued growth going forward.
Bless you. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item F, negotiation with Holden Brothers and Supervisor of Building and Grounds.
I move the supervisor of buildings and grounds be authorized to negotiate a price with Holton Brothers for continued work on the high school wall leak and proceed with the project this year.
Second.
Okay, motion for Mr. McKenna, second for Mr. Mary. Discussion. We did talk about this at the committee of the whole meeting, and at that time was to give the Holton Brothers had started the project previously, Jake, correct?
Yes.
And we're just looking to continue it with them because there is a lot more to be done.
Yes, we put it out for bids last year, and Bolton Brothers won the bid, and they came and did the work, and so far it has been, as they said, perfect watertight, no leaks so far. So to bid the same process again, I don't know that it would be beneficial. And also, Bolton Brothers knows what they're getting into, and they have, last year we asked for a linear foot addition price, so that if they got here and, it made sense to get to a corner and the linear foot was off, we could just add a little bit right at the end of summer if we had the funding to do so. They've already verbally told me that they would honor that price for any additional work here, which was cheaper than the price per linear foot if you divided it based on the original bid. So,
Any additional discussion? That's great. Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
Tara Gizla,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Scott Jensen,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna,
Yes.
Mike Boldig,
Yes. Motion carries. Good. Item G, fundraising campaign for the Environmental Center at the Novoken School Forest. Motion, please.
I move the board authorize a fundraising project compliant with board policy for the construction of an environmental center at the Novoken School Forest.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Mary, second from Ms. Gelzal. Discussion. Once again, this is one that we talked about at the committee of the whole meeting, and it's a extremely worthwhile project in my personal opinion, and I think it's the opinion of a lot of people sitting up here, that we go ahead with this and let them start raising some funds. So, any other discussion?
Something to add to it from last week?
I've got a grant application in the hopper though, ready to go.
Well, let's get it going.
You're chomping at the bit. In that case, there's no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
Tara Griswold,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Scott Jensema,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
and Mike Coldick.
Yes. Motion carries. Tim, get the grant out of the drawer.
Good luck, Mike.
Alrighty, item H, Skyward and True Time module.
I move the board authorize purchase of the Skyward True Time module for tracking employee time and attendance at a first-year cost up to $12,534, with the annual fees of $3,351 thereafter.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Mary, second from Ms. Mead. Discussion.
Mike, I don't have anything to add other than what we discussed at.
Okay. And this is, Tim, if I'm recalling right, this is the module to eliminate the paper timesheets that we're currently using for some of the district employees, or for all.
In excess of 150.
So this is just, makes the system a little simpler and a lot easier to work with. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, roll call vote?
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
Tara Griswold,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Scott Jensema,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
and Mike Coldick.
Yes. Very good. So, let you guys go with that. And we'd be looking now for a motion to accept resignations into individuals.
I move for accept the resignations of Kendall Strasser and Karen Strobel effective June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Fuller, second from Mr. Mary to approve of the two resignations. Any discussion on these? I'm not hearing anything, so in that case, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. We will accept the resignations. New hires, proves, looks like we have one, so we'll be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the hiring of Dawn Hartman Liz effective January 27th, 2016.
Second.
Okay, that already happened.
We have a motion from Ms. Gelzo, second from Ms. Mary, the hiring of Dawn Hartman Miss. Any discussion? I believe we can do this on voice vote.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along here, folks. Be looking, last item in the board action is donations.
I move the board accept with its thanks the donations from the Wisconsin Medical Society Foundation in the amount of $2,000 and Parsons of Antigo in the amount of $529.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Neary, second for Ms. Gelzo. The donations were for from Wisconsin Medical Society were for the Project Greenleaf, the school garden. I believe that's what Ms. Deep is presenting to us.
Exactly.
And Parsons for the sound system at the Ballroom Theater.
Is that oil changes?
Nice.
So, this is all good stuff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Tara Griswold,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Scott Jensema,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller,
Yes.
and Mike Coldick.
Yes. I'd say no, but I don't want to be difficult.
Yes.
Alrighty. Then we would be looking for a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 for deliberating public business in which competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Mr. Jensen.
Second.
Mr. Mary. Roll call vote, please.
Andy Berry,
Yes.
Scott Jensma,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
James Schultz,
Yes.
Tim Fuller, Kara Gizlo,
Yes.
Mike Bowley.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, we are officially in closed session. We will take a moment for the room to clear.